the Blues.
Let's do it. Welcome everybody to the Sports Rep. It's like the official middle of January, it feels like to me, and another glorious, cloudy, semi-warm day here in International Falls, George.
A friend of mine, daughter came in from Portland one time, and it was about 25 below, and we were going to go have lunch, and I come out in my sweatshirt, and she said, "You people up here are crazy because it just you kind of get." I haven't put on a parka in a couple of years.
Yeah, I can't complain. I don't want to jinx it.
No.
But I was thinking the other morning that I don't think, here it is January 18th, I don't think we've had a morning where it's been past 25 below.
No.
Or below 25 below.
We're working slowly through a pretty good.
So we'll take it.
We're good. We'll make it.
So, well, I suppose we gotta talk about the Vikings, I suspect. We might as well get it done with, because the sooner we bury this,
I'm just going to see
the better off we probably are.
If I put any of those in my notes. Oh, yes, indeed I did.
Yes, indeed he did. He's got a plethora of notes today.
Plethora.
So he must have been thinking lots about what he wanted to say today. So let it out, George. Spill it about the Vikings.
Well, number one, I think, as I saw, the best team won. And
Okay.
they deserved the win.
Okay.
They all played the Vikes. They all played the Vikes on both sides of the ball. And as close as it probably was, I think it was a real good win for the Giants. And you know, we all knew it was possible. We thought that the Vikings were going to win. But when you saw out there, I mean, a guy that has a defensive coordinator named Wink. You know, you got to have something going with a guy like that. And then when you see him, you just say,
You mean
"Holy
Wink Martindale?
Wink Martindale." And
Is he Wink Martindale's son, the game show host? I wanted to ask somebody, but I didn't. Anyway.
I don't know about that either, but it crosses your mind.
It does. Every time they said it.
And you took a look at, when you started analyzing a little bit, we have one explosive sparkle on that offense for the Vikes.
Yeah?
And that's, of course, Mr. Jefferson.
And he was held to 47 yards.
He was held to 47 yards, and there were no breakaway runs. There was, Adam Thielen did what Adam Thielen can do, and the rest of them. Hockenson, he had a good game. He always does. But offensively, there was no explosion in that tank. And and they kind of had. I mean, poor rushing was almost non-existent at times. And
60 yards total rushing. Madison did not get a carry in the game. Caught one pass for 2 yards. I hate to say it this way, but Viking fans, I think, wanted us to throw the ball lots, and we did. We threw it 39 times. Kirk completed 30 of them. No turnovers in the game. It was a game that the Vikings should have won, but you can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't blame Cousins for this one.
a lot of people are.
Yeah, I know they are.
Because he threw that before the sticks.
Before, and then whoever called that stupid throwback to the quarterback pass.
So that would have to be O'Connell. I mean, I didn't hear about that till like yesterday or this morning. Because, frankly, folks, I didn't watch the game. I was traveling back from a hockey game, and I had to make a choice what to listen to in the car. Listen to the Vikings game or listen to the Bantam A Championship hockey game. And when my wife offered up a suggestion, she said, I would much rather listen to the Bantam A game than the Vikings game. Problem solved. Don't listen to the Vikings game. So there's lots I missed about that game.
When you got people involved like that they can understand. And so I sat there and I watched the offense at best sputter at times. And that was about it. And so they were very disappointing. Actually, when you take a look at it, what were they, 13-5 for the season?
13-5.
And you can't still tell me how good a team this team is. You don't know how good or bad it is.
We were just talking about here before we started the show that we didn't get surprised by this team on Sunday. We got exactly what we saw all season.
Yeah.
They did exactly how they played every game this year. The defense was mediocre at best. The offense was fair to middling, and they were just looking for a break at the end, possibly to get it to overtime and win it there. And it's serious. That's the way it was all season. They went 11-1 in one-score games.
You know, and I'll tell you, you know, they come into the stadium, and New York comes in with a giant skull sign with this, like, they come right through this, and they got blowing the horns or banging the drums or making all kinds of racket. I don't think it made one bit of difference to those guys at all. They go from stadium to stadium with great big crowds and
Yeah,
play
it shouldn't make any difference to.
and they, you know, they doesn't mess up their counts when they're snapping the ball.
Oh, I think it does there. I think it affects their ability to be able to change the play.
The point of it is that they've been able to work through the problem of this, and they go to so many different stadiums. I mean, hey, when they talk about these people being pros, they're pros. There's no two ways about it.
Okay, so is it tougher being a Vikings fan or being a Chargers fan this week? Wow.
You know, I'll tell you what, it's pretty tough being a Chargers fan too, because they kind of had it. They kind of had, and you know, you know, this is something that people have to remember. Jacksonville has a Josh Allen too.
You like to think that he's that good, huh?
He sure was the other day, shutting them down the second half.
Yeah, but boy, I'll tell you, those first 8 passes he threw in the first quarter.
No, I'm talking about the Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm talking about Trevor Lawrence when he threw 4 interceptions in the first.
I'm talking about the defensive Josh Allen, the linebacker for Jacksonville.
Okay.
He led that defense, and they came back and shut them right down. And I thought, Josh Allen, gee, I remember that name. It might be interesting if Josh Allen plays Josh Allen, and it's just. But you're right about Trevor Lawrence. He put in a second half that was. I guess that I've been kind of waiting, and I can't say that I've seen Jacksonville play a lot, but I've been waiting for him to have one of these explosive shows.
He was the number 1 overall pick for a reason.
Yeah, that's right.
Where he was, where his head was in the first quarter, nobody knows. But yeah, that was an interesting game. You're up 27-0, and you end up finding a way to blow it. So we got that going on. San Francisco had to come back. They were down at halftime, and of course the defense, like San Francisco does in the second half, turned it on and made things happen.
Well, they did, and you know, they're going to come up against. They're going to come up and play Dallas. And Dallas has a real solid running game, and they have to have a solid running game. Otherwise, they don't work so well. And you know, and what San Francisco does so well is shut down that running rate game. Now, I think there's some holes in that secondary. That's not the perfect defense I'd like to think it was.
Nobody has the perfect defense.
No. But
maybe except the '85 Bears.
They were pretty good. But I think that I think that this is going to be just really a fine football game, and I'm going to stick with the 49ers, and I'm sure you go with the Colts.
I'm sticking with the Dallas Cowboys because I got to ride that horse or cowboy or whatever.
That being said, they sure tossed Tampa Bay around. They weren't at all nice to them.
Well, I don't. You know, when you think about it, in the end, Dallas won 12 games. Tampa won what, 8?
8. Yeah, they shouldn't have been close.
Shouldn't have been close, and it wasn't. And despite Dallas's kicker missing 4 extra points in a row, geez, wouldn't have been something if Dallas would have lost by a point after he missed 4 extra points. It would have been
4 extra points in a championship game. Yeah, that's tough to do.
So,
okay, Cincinnati and Buffalo.
Buffalo had to come back from behind, and Cincinnati needed a defensive 98-yard fumble return to win it. So, you know, folks, the whole point I'm trying to make here, folks, is this. It comes down to a couple plays here or there.
That's it.
The Vikings make a stop on the 12-yard or the 12-play drive that the New York Giants had in the fourth quarter, get the ball back and go down and score. They win that game. So, you know, everybody can complain about the Vikings and that Kirk Cousins is now 1-4 or 1-12 or 1-27, whatever it is in the playoffs, and they can't win the big game. Well, folks, you know what? At the end of the day, you usually have more losses than you have wins in the playoffs. It's just the way that it is.
On top of that, Tim, you know, big plays are good. big mistakes are even more overwhelming. So you can count all the great plays that you had defensive, offensively, but if you're giving up the ball, if you're not covering quite right, if you're making the mistakes on coverage, it doesn't matter. So you gotta,
Dwayne said it all year, and Mike said it all year, and everybody else said it all year. We don't do well against running quarterbacks, although we beat Buffalo and we beat the New York Giants the first time. They make it interesting, but again, you look at the scores of the games, all very close. Who figured Buffalo, who was a 14-point favorite, was going to have to come from behind to beat the Dolphins in Buffalo in the cold weather where they shouldn't be able to play well, quote unquote, and they had to bail it out at the end. Cincinnati at home played Baltimore the week before. Should be able to take care of business again. They had to get so again. It's
that's
all
a fine line between all these teams.
Fine line.
And every one of these teams have some outstanding athletes. There are just no two ways about that. So it's
and I know the Viking fans don't like that fine line. I get it.
It's the Vikings this year. Well, I mean, I've always thought this is an anomaly. They go 13-5, and their opponents score more points than they do.
Like I said,
this doesn't happen.
These people who are freaking out about the Vikings losing, it's disappointing. I hate it. I don't want to see them lose. But it was out of the 18 games they played this year, they probably played 14 of them exactly that way. This is what you had to expect.
And they probably had the best draw.
Yeah. And I'll say this: if they would have won and beat San Francisco next week, I would have said, "Hey, look, this is what you get." It's that close. So
yeah, it is that close. I have to say about San Francisco, right now, I think they're the best team in football.
They gave up 23 points to the lowly Seattle Supersonics.
They aren't that lowly, and besides, they were passing the ball that well.
They got lucky to get in the playoffs. The referees got the Seattle Supersonicas in.
Yeah, well, so, that's not going to happen. We'll see.
So you're sticking with San Francisco?
Oh, yes,
are you
absolutely.
Are you taking Philly or Dallas?
Well, I think Philadelphia is going to beat
Philadelphia. All right, let's go to the other side.
I'll tell you the other one. That's going to be a great football game too. These are football games.
Should all be great games.
Yeah.
The only bad thing about the NFC right now, 3 of the teams that are remaining out of the 4 are from the NFC East, and you're going to have to live with that for the next year. That they've got 3 out of the 4 teams, and are they the best division in football? Blah, blah.
Yeah, a couple of years ago they were. Awful.
Exactly.
And it's just, I mean,
welcome to the cycle of the NFL.
Absolutely.
All right, on the other side, you got Kansas City and Jacksonville.
Like I say, we're going to see Josh Allen go against, Patrick, but you know that McMahon. He is really a good quarterback. He was doing stuff the other day that...
I'm going to go on a limb and say Kansas City wins by more than 2 touchdowns.
I think he will, too.
More than 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, who are you taking in the game between Cincinnati and Buffalo, which probably have more drama with outside of the game than in the game, although I got a notification today that DeMar Hamlin has been at the facility every day this week.
Yeah, can you see him walking into the stadium with what that's going to do?
He's going to walk into the stadium.
Yeah.
I'm asking, are they thinking something crazy?
I think that maybe he will be playing before the end of the season.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Who are you taking, Buffalo or Cincinnati?
Oh, I'm going to go. They had before I say that, they had an analyst who played safety for somebody or other for a long time, and he was talking about Josh Allen breaking through the second level and being a safety and seeing this tank coming through the second level. And you watch this guy run. He's dangerous. You don't see him slide. Not often. He lifts those linebackers right off. I know he should be, but he's not that kind of guy. No. So I really like his style of play. I think he's just a fun football player. If I were playing on a football team, I'd like to have a Josh Allen as a quarterback. You have that. I mean, what can I say? Justin Fields had 770 yards this year.
I can believe that.
And when you have that kind of a weapon as quarterback, that really, really helps. That being said, I'm going to have to go with Buffalo. Yeah.
I think Buffalo too.
Yeah.
Close though.
Yeah,
really
it
close.
is close. Cincinnati's got a good team, and over the course of the last couple of years, they've totally improved that offensive line. And watching them the other day, that's exactly the first thing. It's the first thing I generally look for when I start watching a game. Anyway, but they've improved that offensive line, and Joe Burrow is the real item.
The thing I remember about Cincinnati in the playoffs last year, they adjusted their defense from week to week to week to their opponent. A lot of teams don't do that. They stick with and say, we're a 3-4 team or we're a 4-3 team, and this is what we do, and we're going to win this way.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati defensive coordinator was willing to change what he did to try to beat the teams. What is he going to do to stop Josh Allen this week? They didn't really get to find out. Obviously, week 18 with the game being suspended and everything. That might be to Cincinnati's advantage in the game, because Buffalo didn't get to see enough of what Cincinnati is going to do to try to shut them down. It's going to be close, but I'll take Buffalo because they are at home.
Well, as a coach, what do you say to your secondary? Tackle them low. That's get them around the ankles.
Get them around the ankles.
Yeah, no higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else NFL-wise?
This weekend's football is going to be some really good football.
Are you as surprised as I am that Ed Donatel still is the defense coordinator for the Vikings?
Yes.
I'm totally shocked that he's not gone. I don't know what he knows about Kevin O'Connell in order to be able to keep his job, but.
Well, what I have down here, okay, they were talking about the 3-4. What does that do? Well, you have your best rusher, which is probably Hunter, not rushing. He's dropping back for linebacker coverage. And I understand sometimes that has to happen, when you're getting flooded and such. But you don't want that guy dropping back for linebacker. You want him going after quarterbacks. And
I agree.
They just, that 3-4 was not able to put the kind of pressure on. They wouldn't put any pressure on anybody. They were sagging back, and picking off flies. But so I agree.
I think there's some things in the secondary that the Vikings had to cover to make up for. Patrick Peterson is not the Patrick Peterson from 5, 6, 7 years ago. That was obvious. He had the number of interceptions he had because the other teams were throwing at him lots because they thought they could take advantage of him. Duke Shelley is not the answer at the other corner. I mean, he played decently, but the Vikes had some issues in the secondary. I don't believe that. What's his name? The safety, for heaven's sakes, come on, number 22, help me out. Harrison.
Smith.
Harrison Smith, thank you, was up to total par at the end of the season, and of course no team actually is. But I think there's going to be some players who are going to be gone.
And this is a kind of a list. Mr. Kendrick, Adam
probably
Thielen,
gone.
Cook,
Gone.
Krause, Cruz. I think they're going to keep their offensive line pretty much intact.
Wouldn't be any reason not
there
to.
Would be, but they're going to get rid of these other guys because
they got too big a contract.
They're top heavy in all their contracts. And the other thing is that I want to ask you about this. Team speed. They're not overly fast. Outside of Jefferson,
Thielen's lost more than one step.
And I love the guy, and he's a great receiver, but it's time for him.
Anybody still mad at KJ Osborne for dropping that football on the third down play before the fourth down play that ended the game, basically, for the Vikes? Just let it go, Tim.
Well, and they used to say,
it's going to be okay.
Don't throw one to get one, and that wasn't throw one to get one, that was throw one to get 6, and that was disappointing. That was a little disappointing. And some of the play, I don't even want to go there, but, it was an interesting football season. There's no two ways about that. And so,
yeah,
it's a tough season.
It's got him speechless. It was a tough season.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was maddening. It's life, baby.
Yeah, they're going to be talking about this season for a long time.
When they won the North Division last year over his pick, over the Detroit Lions, I'm not going to be at all surprised because to me, the offensive line is in place. They need to get a defensive line in place.
Yeah.
And once they get that taken care of and we get the two working together, good things will happen. It starts up front, folks. You can have everything else.
They're going to come up with some good drafts, and I'm sure they're going to be drafting their butt off and making trades and stuff. I don't know if these guys, Kendrick and Thielen and the Cook, if they can still pick up contracts and like that. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right. Which sport are we changing to? Where you want to go? Basketball or hockey? Which one?
We can go either one.
Let's go basketball.
Basketball. Oh, yeah.
Let's talk Gophers first. You want to talk Gophers?
Minnesota and Ohio State, it was like game of old. And I'm sitting around and I'm looking at Farrell Payne. He's about 6'10", 6'11". He's huge. He's very, very young, and he's in there knocking people down. And this is in Columbus. And you think, this is how they can play. And he was being augmented by Jamison Battle very, very well. And then, of course, you've got Dawson Garcia, who is coming around as being probably one of the best Gopher basketball players we've had in a couple of years. And they were just in there slugging and reaching and clawing and finally winning this game. And then the other day they played Illinois, and it was kind of like,
this is the team that we are going to love.
This is there's no lateral moves here,
Yeah, I think that's the maddening part. They go into Columbus and beat a ranked team, and then lose at home to Illinois, and really, for lack of a better term, just laid an egg. I don't know how else to put it.
It was fun to see that arena in Columbus stunned. Their ball was dropped wide open. They got beat by all these rookie kids, sophomores and freshmen. That part was fun.
Gophers got their last field goal against Ohio State with 5:15 remaining. They were up by 11, and then hung on and maybe got a gift foul at the bucket. Probably a good block by the Buckeyes. But that being said, they made their free throws down the stretch and they won the game. And
that's the same thing that hurt them against Illinois is their free throw. I think they shot 27% the second half. They came out in the second half, took the lead, and then and then Illinois went on a 12 or 14-0 run and never looked back.
I had the game on. I really wasn't watching. I was kind of listening because I was working. But they mentioned that the Gophers are shooting 59% from the free throw line.
They're the worst free throw team in the Big Ten.
I heard it was the worst free throw shooting in the country.
Well, it might be.
And not only is it the worst in the country, but they may shoot the worst free throw percentage since DePaul over 12 years ago.
Oh, boy. You see, this is what happens when you hit the papers. There's people that have no time but to look up all these statistics.
Crazy, stupid statistics. And I'm like, how does a basketball team, how do you, I mean, Dwayne and I always talk about off the air, not on the air. We always talk about the fact that a team should shoot 70% from the free throw line in high school. And he says 75%. Well, I think that's a titch high. 70 is a good number. And realistically, I would probably settle for 60 to 65%.
Yes.
But for a college team to shoot less than 60% from the free throw line, these are kids who play basketball every blessed day probably of their life. They're supposed to be able to shoot that little orange pea through that little orange rim, and they can't do it when there's nobody guarding them. How the heck should I expect them to do it when there's somebody guarding them?
No, I coached some pretty good free throw shooters, and the good ones could hit that 70. There were some kids out there that really couldn't hit a jump shot to save their life that was shooting 80 and 90% free throw because they had got that motion as a little kid and they never changed, and they just go on and on and on. Jill Catron, my good friend who was a golf champion, she wasn't able to shoot very well. I know she shot 95% of her free throws, and these things were bam free throws still. So free throws, my wife goes crazy. They're called free throws for a reason. Make them, and you can't win very well if you don't. I mean, 27-30% shooting all around. You're not going to be hitting your free throws if you can't hit anything else. So it's. But anyway,
wow.
Dawson Garcia and Battle and Farrell Payne. There's a good foundation here.
I'm hoping that we can keep believing that it's good, that we just got to build through that, and that the stud kid from California or out west where he's from is going to be the 5-star, going to give us a bump next year. Purdue comes to town tomorrow Thursday. It's Wednesday today.
I watched them play last week too. They got that Eddie. You know, he's 7'4" or something.
Had 32 points and 17 rebounds against Michigan State on Monday.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
How many is he going to have against the Gophers then?
It's hard to say, but they should try to box him out.
If I take the Gophers, how many points will you give me on the spread? Will you give me 20?
Oh yeah.
You'll give me 20?
Yeah.
I might need every one of them plus.
You really well might. I mean,
and then the scary part about it is that we're probably going to play well, because Purdue's probably going to come in there with their heads up their backsides and go, oh, it's the Gophers. We can take care of them. We already did once.
Well, I think they're arguably the best team in the Big Ten, and
I think they're the best team in the Big Ten.
And so
they want to be argued to be the best team in the country.
Yes,
though.
they do.
They don't want to be talking about
they're ambitious, Tim. That's the
small things like the Big Ten title. Although we know what happens to the Big Ten and the Big Dance in the March Madness.
Oh boy,
there's this little puddle on the floor type thing. Yeah, that's what happens.
Well, I mean, and I kept on thinking of Illinois where they had that Coburn kid. You know, he's just a horse, and he's going in and they win. I think they won their first game and then just got hammered. And it's why? Well, because the other team could run and shoot better. It's still a running game. And it's
got to be able to get up and down. You got to get a little luck. Got to be able to shoot that 3 ball.
You got to be able to shoot the 3.
That helps.
Yeah, yes.
You want to talk about the Gopher women?
Let's talk about the Gopher women.
I'm confused with this team.
I am a little bit too.
I mean, and I'm not saying that you need one person to be always showing up and doing something, but they seem to have, and it's a good problem to have. They've got ladies who, this game they play out of their minds, and then the next game they're almost like non-existent. So that inconsistency, that youth, that's what it is. I'm trying to remember that they're freshmen. Some of them true freshmen.
And that's right. And like your friend, I watched her. I think she scored like 4 points and.
Mara Braun, yeah.
Barb, and I looked, and she did have 31 minutes, and I'm thinking, what's going on there? And and so somebody knows. Maybe they're just playing really solid defense. They're popping up on her, and they have a.
Yeah, and I think sometimes your jump shot comes and goes. You get a little tired. You get a little draggy sometimes. I guess what we always said: if your jump shot's not working, that means you need to go to the rack. You got to get closer to the bucket and break that seal and get some confidence.
Find a way to help. Yeah. Just go a little
play
harder,
defense,
and rebound.
Throw the ball, pass the ball. So they get Penn State tonight, right?
They do.
Wednesday. They get Penn State at 6 o'clock. They beat them 98-96 in double overtime back in December. So it would be nice to see the Gopher women pick up their second Big Ten win, both of them against Penn State. So, they played number 24 Illinois on Sunday and only lost by 13 points.
They did, and they had an opportunity to win the game a couple of times. So, and I mean, like we say all the time, the Gophers had an opportunity to beat Ohio State. They grabbed it and went with it. They did not really have an opportunity in the Illinois game, and But the Gopher women, they make their own opportunities as well, and so you have to follow through with, you get an offensive opportunity. What do you follow through with? Good defense at the other end. It's
got to see some threes go down and whatever else. So hopefully the Gopher women will pick up that road win in the Big Ten tonight. How about the Timberwolves?
Well, let's talk about Timberwolves for a little bit. Everybody is talking about, how, well, his name is Walker Kessler.
People, I'm going to cut George off before he even gets there. He had one game. And he just so happened he did it against the team that drafted him and traded him. Okay, he had a 20 and 21. God bless Wayne. You're all thinking, geez, Friday he'd have gone 20-20 for us every game. You are so far out of whack.
No, and I have to do nothing but agree with you. But boy, does that set off the carousel. And it's just like there was a whole half a page article about, this and that and another thing. And I tell you what, Rudy Gobert is a very fine basketball player. He's going to remain a fine basketball player for a long time. Maybe we had some expectations that he wasn't able to fulfill. Those expectations are our problem, not necessarily his. And and when I saw Walker Kessler, because we all knew that he was probably going to be a top shelf NBA candidate. He's 7 foot tall. He had all the picture. He could shoot. He could rebound and run. So we knew that he was going to be there.
You keep talking. I'm gonna do this. Walker Kessler points.
And so when you see this, you just knew that they were going to climb all over this. So
NBA Kessler points.
yeah.
So
Anyway, but
he continues to climb the mountain.
Well, yeah.
The 4th overall pick has the best 3-point percentage of all rookies who have had at least 100 attempts from that distance. He's made a 3 in 25 consecutive games. Come on, load up here. So anyway, he keeps talking. Let's see here.
There we are.
Anyway,
I'm just saying, he's young. He's got a future.
He's averaging. Listen now, all you people out there who are bashing the Timberwolves, and you know who he is. He's averaging 7.5 points per game. Okay, he had 20. Okay, he lit it up. He's averaging 7 rebounds per game. That's versus the 21 he had against the Wolves. He's averaging 2 blocks per game. That's a big deal to me. 2 is a lot.
Yeah.
And he's a 71% field goal shooter. He's shooting 71%
That's a lot.
from the field. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But that's all I mean,
the thing of it is that if you take a look at rebounds and block shots, he can't even ride the same bus as Gobert. It's just and Rudy's a full-grown man.
Kessler is not. Kessler might be there someday. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He made whatever, and maybe he's getting better. And maybe those averages are for the full season. And he's playing a lot more lately. Okay, yeah, fine.
And of course, then they lose by 1 point.
And they lose by 1 point.
And so this all.
And had a wide open shot to win it, and everybody's judging Ant because he gave up the ball. He's a superstar. He shouldn't give up the ball. No, he's trying to keep a wide open guy saying, I think you can win it. I haven't. He came on the radio. I played the cut. He said, I'll do it again. I'm glad.
I think Anthony Edwards is ahead of this team, and he plays accordingly.
I said it last week. We got to be getting close to Karl Anthony Towns coming back. It's a week later, and I still haven't heard any rumblings about when he's coming back. So, but having said all that,
that's what people say. Who can you trade off this team now because you're committed with Rudy and all? And of course, the big cat comes down.
Big cat comes down.
Yeah.
Wolves are in Denver tonight.
They are.
They never play good on ESPN. It's a national game tonight. Second half of the doubleheader. They never play well. Okay, I'm only saying that because I'm hoping to jinx them not playing well. Because I want them. They're playing the best team in the Western Conference,
yes,
the Denver Nuggets, who have Nikola Jokic, who is maybe going to be the 3-time reigning NBA MVP.
But he got 60 last week, a week or so ago, or something.
Yeah, it was close 57, some freaky thing like that. He only had 36 last night against,
Good D.
Yeah. So, having said that, Denver had played last night. Denver's got to play again tonight, so it's a back-and-back. Timberwolves, I know, got to fly in. Hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that and beat the best team in the Western Conference. That would get them back to 500 again.
Yeah, no, and actually for this team at this point to be 500, if they were a couple of games above it, 3-4 games above it, that'd be great. But that's not bad.
They're in the playoffs right now. All you
now.
need is a chance, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance. This team does make a trade before the deadline, no doubt about it. They make a trade. I'm not saying it's going to involve Karl Anthony Towns, but they are going to be trading somebody out the door. I don't know who that's going to be, but they will be trying to do something before the trade deadline because they need something, and maybe they'll be able to figure out what that is.
Yes. I hope they do.
Anything else basketball-wise that you'd like to discuss? You want to discuss the Maya Moore retirement 4 years after she stopped playing?
Well, maybe just a little bit. She's a very dedicated woman, and how old is she? 31, 32?
Somewhere in that vicinity.
I mean, she's just reaching her.
She was drafted in 2011, so that's 12 years ago. So she's probably 33 or 34.
Well, she's a committed young woman, and I do appreciate that commitment. The question that I have, could she have more effect playing
socially?
And, being the best athlete she can be and taking that out there, as opposed to, and I don't want to belittle social workers to come in and do this. She has a gift, and in my mind, it's really too bad that she's not able to.
She won NCAA championships. She won 4 WNBA championships. She was a league MVP. There was nothing else to get. I mean, more rings for the fingers. I mean, but I think
when you walk around the neighborhood, she's up to her hips in little girls.
Can I say that she was also probably disappointed that she had to go overseas to make more money than she made in the United States playing basketball?
And that's an issue.
It's a big issue in my mind. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
I understand there's a difference, but the vast difference that over there they can pay $1 million per year for a women's basketball player, and over here they might make $250,000, $300,000. I think that's ridiculous. Myself, that means to me somebody's getting rich off of them.
Somebody's making dough. Absolutely.
Not that they aren't making dough off of all the people that we've talked about today, because there's plenty of money around for everybody.
Just don't go play in Russia.
Maya, I wish you'd have said this 4 years ago when you walked away, just retired then. I guess that's my problem. Why now? Why all of a sudden? I guess she needed to walk away and then realize that she needed to be away. It was the right choice.
No, I think she's a woman with a lot of integrity, and so whatever she arrives at and how she arrives at it, plus the fact she knew that somewhere along the line, if she's going to hang up her shoes, it's now time to hang them up.
She did it as a Lynx player. She'll go in the Hall of Fame as a Lynx player, and
she sure was fun to watch.
She was a heck of a lot of fun to watch. Maybe one of the best. Maybe the best. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just think how many titles she may have won if she'd have stuck around. She won 4. She may have won 6, 7, 8. I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth. Let's move on to hockey before I get down disappointed even worse.
The Wild are wild still.
The Wild are wild still.
I see they picked up a Boldy for a little bit of money.
Matt Boldy, 7 years, $49 million. Mike Bolstead told me, he said in a couple of years that's going to be a bargain.
Yeah.
And I hope the heck you're right, Mike, because I thought it was a little over the top, but we couldn't pay Kevin Fiala $8 million a year or $8.5 million, but we can pay Matt Boldy $7 million. Okay, I'm sure Mike, if he sees this, is probably going to be going, well, those are two totally different players, Tim. You can't compare them. I understand that. But, yeah.
I do know that everybody that talks about him really thinks he's a highly skilled hockey player.
I love Matt Boldy. Don't get me wrong. He does the dirty things that Kevin Fiala didn't do and will never do. So they're different hockey players.
Yeah.
It's not comparing them. So I like the signing. I like the comeback last night against the Washington Capitals. I did a basketball game last night in War Road, a varsity game that started at 5:30. I was in the car by 7 o'clock. I had supper. I got back into the car, and it was about the middle of the second period, and I'm picking up the Washington Capitals feed on XM. And I'm sure I could have went and looked for the other one, but for the one from the Wild. But I'm like, you know what? I want to hear what the other teams are talking about. Man, first of all, the announcer from the Washington Capitals, he's in love with the state of Minnesota. He did his homework. He talked about TJ Oshie and War Road and the Hockey Town USA and blah, 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 and Minnesota this and Minnesota that, and Kirill the Thrill. You know, he didn't call him Kaprizov, but he called him Kirill the Thrill, and et cetera. Well, when I picked up the game, we had just tied it. Spurgeon had just scored to tie it at 1, and they were talking about how badly Washington was dominating the game, that the Wild could hardly get the puck out of their own end, and that goal was one of the first shots that they had finally gotten on goal, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And from that moment on, the Wild took that game over. Now, they said this stat after the second period when the Wild were up 3-2. They said that in the last 56 games, that when the Wild lead going to the third period, they are 52-0-4.
You're kidding me.
52-0-4. That means
not lost.
They've lost four overtime losses or shutout losses. They are 52-0-4. They've not lost in regulation. That 4 is 4 overtime or shootout losses. That's in the last 56 games the Wild have played. They have not lost it in regulation. Only 4 losses out of 56. And they made it 53-0-4 last night because Jewel got the empty netter and...
Yeah.
Yeah, so good start to the road trip.
They're filling XL Arena up. People are enjoying the Wild they're enjoying the Wild like I've not seen a professional team in Minnesota get pumped. This is a good deal. That's a good hockey team. Fun to watch.
Get Carolina tomorrow, then go to Florida for a pair of games where they get the Panthers. No easy game, and of course they get the Lightning, which is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Two Stanley Cup championships in the last 3 seasons, and probably had a chance to win one last year. Didn't get to the finals, but they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it doesn't get any easier. Carolina, one of the top teams, they just won out of they had just an 11 or 12 game, winning streak. So this is a tough road trip, and they kept Ovechkin under wraps last night. Yes, Washington was playing on back-to-back nights. It happens. Got to get over it. I know I use it as an excuse at times for my teams when they play back-to-backs. But the Wild got a good start, and even head coach Dean Evason had to say, "Man, did we stink for the first half of that hockey game? That we were sleepwalking. We weren't there, and then." Sometimes you got to persevere, hang in until you finally find your goal, your mojo, and let it rip.
No, that's just kind of the way it works. It even works for my grandsons in their games.
Can I cry in my proverbial beer for a minute? UMB went to Omaha last week and looked ugly.
Yeah, they did.
Ick.
Yeah.
And North Dakota lost at home twice to Western Michigan. It's changed in the NCHC. The teams that were at the top before, we talked about the cycle in the NFL. I think it's happened in the NCHC. North Dakota and UMD, who were the prohibitive favorites for the last how many ever years?
And they're both struggling.
Now we're talking about Denver, and we're talking about St. Cloud State, and we're talking about Western Michigan. And all of a sudden, these teams are sitting in the top 12. UMD, I hate to say it, unless they win the playoff, the NCHC tournament, they're not going to make the playoffs. I don't care. They'd have to win out essentially from here to make it happen. The 2 losses to Omaha basically ended it in January. It's done. I'm disappointed, but in Scott I have faith that he'll turn this baby around. And to say that he can't make a run in the playoffs in the NCHC, I would be a fool to say that because he can do it.
Oh, he can. No doubt about it.
And nobody wants to see UMB in the NCAA hockey tournament. Nobody.
Oh, really?
Nobody.
I'd like to see it.
No, I mean, nobody wants to have to play him.
Oh, no.
No, nobody wants to have to play UMD. Every other team's going, bring me a lot of other teams. Don't bring UMD into it because they always seem to have a way through it. So, thanks for listening, everybody. I had to get that out of my system.
Get it out.
I was thinking about going up on the roof and jumping off or something. So,
off the roof?
Well,
that'll break your ankle.
Wow, or something. Well, let's talk about last Saturday, George. He's got his shirt on.
Yes.
Show everybody the shirt. Turn up. I don't know if you can see it, but
it's not every day that the coach of a state championship team comes and gives you this, and then we get our 139-pounder finalist runner-up to interview. And then watch a whole dual meet. No, it was a pretty good time on Saturday. No two ways about that.
In case you didn't see last week's show, George and I were down at the Sanford Center in Bemidji watching the Rick Lee Invitational Wrestling Tournament Saturday morning. We did Coach's Corner first. Then we watched a little wrestling, and we had the opportunity, as he mentioned, to interview Kylie Donut, who was the state runner-up last year at her weight class, and who is looking to go down there and finish business this year at the XL Energy Center. And to me, it was a good day of watching wrestling. When I told the Queen of Pain, Carrie Ganch, that we only stayed for one duel, she was disappointed. She goes, "Where's your guys' commitment?"
No,
I said, "Well, George had a hockey game, and I had a nap that I had to get to." You know, you give what you can give.
No, you can. And in the old days, I'd start at 8 and go right till 10 o'clock at night and have no problem with that. But it's an active thing. And I'll tell you, we watched a number of young ladies wrestle, and there was nothing like seeing a 13-year-old girl with pigtails and a snarly, nasty look on her face.
George says 13. I would agree. She might have been 14 at the oldest.
At the oldest.
From Long Prairie Grey Eagle. So we don't know her name. I never went and looked it up. It was probably in the program. And I didn't even look it up. But this girl, she was standing. I've told this story how many times, so I'll share it with all of you if you just hear me all the way out. We're getting ready to do Coach's Corner, and this girl is standing in front of us during the national anthem. And she walks out onto the mat, and she's this thick right here, folks. She's no thicker than that. Skinny, whale. She's like 5'6". She didn't weigh 100 pounds, folks, I'm telling you. And she gets out against a girl who was shorter than her and looked more physically imposing, and I'm like, she is going to get her butt kicked. And about 6 minutes later, I turned to George and I looked up at the scoreboard, and she was up 15-4. The skinny girl, kicking the pants off this other girl, and I'm like, what's going on? Well, then we did the show, and we watched her again, and she won again. And then we saw her after, when we were walking out the door, the blue ribbon and the gold medal hanging around her neck. She was the champ of her weight class, and I'm like...
Their parents were right behind us, and they call Olivia, and they call her Livy. So they're calling them Olivia, and she could ride legs, she could throw high halves, she rode arm bars. This girl knew what it was all about all the way around.
Not only was she mean and nasty, and I hope she that's with all due respect, young lady, but when her head coach, who was coaching the boys over in the dual meet, and he walked over and was watching her, and he said something to her to do a head something. I don't know what it was. You probably would know it if he said it, exactly what it was. But when his voice cracked, she changed. She went to this move, and there was no like, "Coach, screw you." This was like with 20 seconds left in a 6-minute match. And she could have probably said to the coach, "I was too exhausted." No. There was none of that. She snapped into that move, and she was going to try to pin that girl. She was way ahead on points. All she had to do was ride it out, whatever. And the coach snapped her too, and I'm like,
no,
wow.
And we.
I had fun.
We interviewed Miss Donna, and here's this beautiful young lady. She's a junior in high school. She's, I'm sure, a straight A student. She's the whole package, well spoken, and what's your favorite move? The butcher. Jesus, girl. And I mean, this girl is all peaches and cream. Well, it's a cross face and running underneath, and then you just twist them from their head to their back. And the butcher, and here I love the butcher. Wow, I tell you, she was absolutely amazing. This girl is we'll watch for her in the spring because she's going to do real well.
Two amazing girls. We got to talk about the heavyweight wrestling match between the two teams on the far side away from us.
Oh.
Heavyweights. Sometimes watching heavyweights can be tough, can be slow after you watch all these quick, fast kids at 152 pounds and everything else. They come out, and sometimes you get some big, heavy kids. We had two pretty big, heavy kids.
They were big.
But the dual score was 36-34, so whoever wins that match, that team is going to win the duel. You're going to win the match. This is how much pressure is on you. And it's 1-0 with 20 seconds to go. And the one kid plops the other guy on his back, gets the 2 points, the takedown, and wins it 2-1. And a kid who I thought probably couldn't jump over a piece of paper probably got about this high off the floor, and he was running around, and his teammates
This is
mobbed
a
him.
highlight of his life, and will remain so. It's an amazing experience for him.
Three big memories from that day. I don't think I should never forget them. That's what it's all about. That's why we went and did what we did. And kudos to Evan Omdahl here on the air.
And what a host.
Did a great job, set us up, took care of everything, got the t-shirts for both of us. 2 of them, long sleeve, one for the boys, one for the girls teams, and obviously the girls, the state champions from last year, the first ever state champions.
This is a historical shirt. I'll fold this up and it'll be worth money someday.
Girls wrestling at Bemidji State, there's 12 weight classes in girls wrestling. They've got 11 of them ranked in the top 10 in the state.
Yeah, Evans really got himself in a fine program there, and he's an accomplished coach, an accomplished wrestler, and he's enjoying what he's doing. But like he said, you do it for the Jills and the Joes. You don't do it for the wins. And he coaches that way, and so does Rance Barr, the coach at Bemidji, who is truly outstanding and a future Hall of Fame coach. He was an outstanding wrestler and a great coach. So yeah, we got to thank those guys. They did a nice job for us.
It was fun. We enjoyed it. Hopefully next year it's already maybe back on the calendar again. Whether we do Coach's Corner or just go down and watch, then we don't have to work so hard. We can just have some fun. Maybe go down the night before and yeah. What else you got in that yellow tablet to discuss? Because we're about there. I can feel it. We're running out of daylight.
See, that's all right. A couple of things. St. Thomas scores.
It's nice to have rich alumni, right?
$75 million to build a new arena, and nothing stays the same. And so St. Thomas is now they've entered the realm of the big time. They've accommodated it pretty well thus far. The only thing they needed was an arena, and I like the old football stadium. I actually I warmed up on it.
I got to play there at Shaughnessy, actually.
Yeah.
So So anyway, big one for St. Thomas, and we got to talk Australian Open for just a few minutes.
Sure.
Because I love my tennis, and of course I love the majors because that's really you got to love it, but you can't get to all of it. It's kind of like golf. You got to get to the majors and the biggies, and you got to let the other stuff go, unfortunately. And so the Australian Open started Sunday night our time, Monday their time. And of course, probably the biggest news has been the weather, because it's been raining, and so they've had to close the roof on the stadiums, and they're not getting to play some of these lower seeds and the players that aren't playing the top seeds. They're going to end up playing back-to-back days, maybe possible 3 out of 4 days, which I'm not saying doesn't happen, but they're talking that the top players have these advantages because they get to play indoors where people want to go watch and the people they want to watch. But Rafael Nadal injured in the match last night. An American that I've never heard of, Mackenzie McDonald, comes up with the win.
Nadal is out?
Nadal, the #1 seed and defending champion, is out. So I respect Rafa, what he said after the match when he was asked why didn't he just retire in the second set when he had a chance, because he knew the injury was severe enough he could go, but he couldn't really go the way he wanted to. He says because you play the match out, because that's the way you do it.
Nobody's going to deny his heart.
He went up a notch on my ladder.
Yeah,
how I despise Rafi with all the butt picking and hair flicking and the psychoness of his match. And I'm a superstitious fool myself, so I can't bash him too completely. But for him to come out and say that he went back out and he gutted it out, good for him, because other #1 seeds in the world, and I won't name them, Novak Djokovic, would have just walked off the court. And I shouldn't say that about Novak, because he probably wouldn't either. So anyway.
These guys are tough, and they didn't get where they're at by walking off the court.
Yeah, exactly. Americans have 3 women seated in the top 10.
Well, no, that's got to be rare.
And 4 in the top 13. So and that's without a woman named Williams in that mix. So Coco Gauff is 7, Pegula is 3, Madison Keys is 10, and Danielle Collins is 13. So maybe can one of them take down Iga Swiatek? We're hoping. We need a new women's star. I think it's going to be Coco Gauff myself.
Upset happens all the time, and Coco Gauff is a very fine tennis player.
Yeah, so she had to go to a second set tiebreaker. Still not consistent, but we got to remember, I think she's only 19 years old as well.
Yeah.
So we'll give her a little break. But of course, tennis starts about 6 o'clock in the evening and then goes to like 6 o'clock in the morning that's bad for viewing times.
You can set up at the radio station. You can set up your camera right there in front, and
Yeah, while I'm doing the sports.
while you're doing the sports.
It'll probably happen.
You ever
next
see
week.
that one Progressive commercial where the guy is in an AT&T commercial and he's in the spaceship and going, oh, no. So yeah, you got to just watch what you say. But other than that, you'll be all right.
We'll be okay.
I'm just going to make up one little thing because there's people out there that want to know about the Minnesota-Nebraska dual meet, and it was.
You mean the one that they lost? Or the one they won?
They got their butt kicked.
Then they won on Sunday, though. They beat Michigan
They
State on Sunday.
beat Michigan State. I hadn't seen that one yet, but they the one I did see with Nebraska beat them 18-9, and they only won 3 matches. But Aaron Magoa is the best young Gopher I've seen wrestle.
At 125?
He's at 133.
133. All right.
And
Well,
he is-
I've yet to get to watch.
He's just a freshman, and he loves getting in tight and scrambling.
All right. I'm
love a
excited for
scrambler.
that. I do probably have to finish with last Friday night at Bronco Arena. I think we talked about this last week with the 75th season of Bronco hockey, the celebration, the guys that came back who had been to state tournaments throughout the ages, including all the way back to Jimmy Worley from the 1957 state championship team being there. So he actually told me they came up Friday and they were driving back Friday night. They needed to get back, and I'm like, whew. That's commitment there, but good to see a lot of those guys. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them because we had the Bantam 8 tournament on the radio and we had the wrestling going on and everything else, so I didn't get to spend as much time with those guys as I wanted to. But
I tell you, it's one of the things. It's the show, Tim, and you and Boley did a good job on the show and the cameras and everything, and seeing people out there that I got a nice shot at Crazy Thompson. It was good to see him.
And as long as I mentioned the Bantam A's, they win their home hockey tournament last week as we had the game on the radio. I wasn't there for the call for the championship game. I wish I'd have been there, but sometimes you got to be a dad first.
Yeah, you do.
Anyway, good call by Joey as the Falls wins it in a shootout in the championship game against Roseau. And the Pee Wee A's, that was coming, thank you. The Pee Wee A's won their tournament in Fort Francis. They're at home this week. We're going to have that on the radio, so hopefully the Pee Wees can pull off the same thing, win their home tournament as well. Makes for exciting theater.
Well, it's that time of year.
It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that just about does it for me. Have a good week in sports.
Thanks, everybody.